Hi everyone, FizzFop here, and today I decided to try something a little different. I hope you don't mind. I thought I would give an interview style video a try. I've never done a video like this before, and all I can say is it was definitely a learning experience. And by doing this video, I discovered a lot of the do's and don'ts and things I need to improve on, so bear with me as I stumble my way through this. As for the interview, I did it a couple of weeks ago with Billy Tucci. Billy is doing a crowdfunded graphic novel featuring Miss Fury. And for those of you who don't know who Miss Fury is, she's one of those great Golden Age characters that's often forgotten about. So without any more explanation, let's roll.
I'm just going to start. Joining me was Billy Tucci. And if you don't know who Billy Tucci is, he's a longtime comic book veteran. He worked at Marvel, worked at DC. He worked on characters like Batman. He worked on characters like Sergeant Rock, another one of my all-time favorites. And he's worked on She. He was part of the bad girl art boom of the 90s. It made the 90s so exciting for comic books. And right now I've got a recent book of his with me, Zombie Sama, if you get a chance, check it out. And he's got another book coming out with Dynamite Entertainment called Miss Fury. And this is one of these Golden Age characters who was awesome, had a huge impact back in the day, and she sort of disappeared. She sort of fell off the face of the earth, and Billy's bringing her back, and he's doing from what I've seen, it looks like an awesome project. So take it away, Billy. Tell us about Miss Fury.
Well, it's good to see you, and thank you for having me on FizzFop. I love that, bro. I love that. Yeah, it's a story that I've been working on for over 2 years now, maybe even 3. And I remember San Diego Comic-Con 1994. And I was by Chuck Rosansky's booth, and I saw this book up there, Miss Fury, and I'd never heard of the character before. And I just fell in love with her. And I'm like, wow. You know, I'm like, what is this character? She looks just like Catwoman. And Chuck's like, no. Catwoman looks just like her. And he, you know, and I couldn't afford the copy. It was like one of the original Marvel ones, you know, like #1 or something like that. And it wasn't in great shape either. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever read this. I'll try to find a trade. And then it took me 20 years or so later. I discovered the IDW books, and I have them here. That was edited by Trina Robbins and Doug Mulaney. And it collects the entire Miss Fury, you know, the Sensational Sundays. And if you look at this character, you see, you know, that she is, you know, literally what Catwoman, you know, she preceded Catwoman. You know, she is the original Catwoman, I guess, if you will. And the interesting thing about Tarpe Mills is that Miss Fury debuted on, I think it was April 6th, 1941, a good 6 months before Wonder Woman. She's also the first, I believe, the first published comic book superheroine, female superheroine created by a woman. You know, it was written, illustrated, colored, all by Tarpe Mills, and it preceded, again, it's like I said, it preceded Wonder Woman by 6 months. She was fighting Nazis 1 month after Captain America, that famous cover, you know, of him punching Hitler in the face. Yep. And
before Pearl Harbor, before the U.S. declared war on Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you look at it, it's a good, you know, what, 9 months before Pearl Harbor. Mm-hmm. When Miss Fury came out, you know, 10 months before, or whatever, 8 months before Pearl Harbor for Miss Fury, 9 months before Pearl Harbor with Cap. And the story, it was created by Tarpe Mills. Tarpe Mills was born June Tarpe Mills. She used her middle name Tarpe because it sounded masculine. Mm-hmm. Because at that time, and really, unfortunately, all the way into the 90s, and even to today to some extent, female cartoonists were pigeonholed into doing girl books.
Like Brenda,
you know, romances.
Yeah, romance stuff.
Yeah, that sort of, yeah. That's that never have this, you know, this Black Pantheress in this beautiful, you know, leopard skin costume, tight-fitting leopard skin tapered costume, fighting gangsters and mad scientists and Nazis, going to, you know, going over to Brazil and stopping the German invasion of South America, which he did. I mean, just incredible stuff.
Storyline. That was one of the longest storylines for it, wasn't it? The Brazilian episodes. A lot of great characters came out of that.
Lots of great characters, and we're actually bringing those characters back, the majority of them, of her characters that she created for Miss Fury, the Joy Division. So I just fell in love with this character, and going back maybe 2 years ago, over 2 years now, 2.5 years ago, I was talking to Anthony Marquez, who is now the proprietor, the owner of the Kubert School, an amazing cartoonist in his own right, and he was an editor at Dynamite Comics. And we were like just hanging out at a show at the bar or whatever, as you do. And I said, I love Miss Fury, and I know you guys published Miss Fury, and I've got a great Miss Fury story. And he's like, we're thinking about bringing Miss Fury. We want to do Miss Fury. We want to bring Miss Fury back. And I'm like, I'm doing Miss Fury. Unless you get Trina Robbins to do it, I'm doing Miss Fury. And so I pitched it. They loved it. Apparently. And then we went forward with the book. We kind of rushed it, though. Mm-hmm. We had originally we had Emma Kubert on to do the art, but just scheduling, that they had solicited it too fast, and it was a crazy time, and just the scheduling just never worked out. They ended up canceling it, and now redoing it on launching as an Indiegogo, and it's so much for the better for that. Because I'm able to encompass it into this giant 100+ page premium formatted graphic novel. And I'm working with Maria Laura Sanapo, who's our artist, and she is astonishing. She gets it. She gets the character.
I was going to ask you about that. You guys put together a hell of a team. The original art the art that I've seen that you guys have posted just looks amazing, because the inks look beautiful, the colors look beautiful, the drawings look beautiful. It is beautiful. And one of the things I really appreciate what you guys are doing is, it looks like to me you're very much inspired by Tarpe Mills in the style. And that's something I appreciate, because it's not just in the style of the art. It appears also you're following through on the writing as well, where you're paying homage to the character and what she did, was it 90 years ago or 80 years ago? And so,
yes, 75, 80, yes, 80 years ago. I mean, this February will be the 80th anniversary when Joy Division will be released. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this book really is a love letter to June Tarpe Mills. Mm-hmm. And the more I learned about the character, the more I learned about her creator. And the thing is that June Tarpe Mills, she did this strip for 10 years, 11 years actually, 10 years, 1941 to 1952. And it's amazing how in the 1940s, when she first brought out Miss Fury during World War II, a lot of the morality levels, if you will. I mean, we were up on certain points, all patriotism, and we've got to, destroy the fascist and all. But a lot of other were laxed, because these women became very independent. The men were off to war. Mm-hmm. These women, though, were working in the factories. They were ferrying aircraft. Mm-hmm. They were nursing, joining the nursing corps, joining the administrative corps, joining the OSS, joining the British Secret Operation Executive, which is the precursor to MI6, and the SAS. These women were behind the lines, fighting the Germans, fighting the Japanese, and it seems like it was almost this: let's eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we may all die. Mm-hmm. And that's why June Tarpe Mills was able to get away with a lot of racy things in the books.
Some of the things,
and she was.
I was reading up just recently when I was doing a little bit of research on this. She was like one of the first people to talk about single motherhood, because that was a big issue during World War II, with the men being off, and there were a lot of unwed mothers, which society at that time sort of frowned upon, but they were out there in mass, so that was one of the things.
And you got to think that here she has a character that's 22 years old and ends up adopting a child, saving a child from being murdered by this mad scientist in Brazil, bringing the child back, and now she's a single mother who everyone thinks she married her fiance, had this child, and she comes back like, oh no, we're not together anymore, and it's not his son. Shock. And at first, and you had a lot of the single mothers during the war, and it wasn't planned, obviously. A lot of widows, because their husbands were killed. Mm. So here was every Sunday that Tarpe Mills put together this Sunday strip, because I don't know how many single mothers actually bought the comics off the newsstand, but Miss Fury was running every Sunday in 200 newspapers across the country. and they can see that here's this woman that it's an escapism. Here's this woman, either her poor young husband was killed in action, or missing in action, or he's away in danger, and she's got to pay the bills. Yes. Because what were the soldiers making? $50 a month? Is that enough to support a family at the time? Not really. So especially the ones living in the cities and all. So here are these single mothers who are going to work in the factories. They're dropping their children off at home for their mothers and fathers to watch. Building the war machine. You're really pumping being the blood that pumps the engine of the war machine is the factory, is the arsenal of democracy, if you will. And then them coming home and relaxing on a Sunday, maybe they're only morning off after going to church, because everyone did that. And then to dive into the escapism of Miss Fury and seeing this woman that's not only a single mother raising this child, but then fighting Nazis herself. Yeah. And wearing this very sexy costume and being this clothes horse, this fashionista, the highest end of fashion, what Marla was, Marla Drake, the protagonist. And it really, and again, also having, going on dates, and falling in love with a detective and this crazy stuff going, a lot of insinuations about sex and things like that. And it thrived at that point. Again, you have to think in 1943 is when from 1930, I think 1940, the Catwoman launched. Yeah. But she was just a woman in a dress, an evening gown with a mask that looked like a little Halloween costume mask. Yeah. She didn't wear that amazing, green and purple, beautiful dress with the slit. That I love that costume. Yeah, so 1947, I believe.
Yeah, I came across two other characters that imitated Miss Fury's look. That was Black Angel, which I believe was an open character. She was like an aviatrix. And then there was Black Venus, which was another character who their costumes were almost identical at one point to Miss Fury. So there were other.
What was the name of her?
Miss Black Venus. She was part of the
Holyoke line. I never heard of her. I got to check her out. Well, thank you.
She was part of the Holyoke line. And at first they drew her as sort of like a bathing suit kind of thing, but then they reverted to the black leather skin tight outfit with like and even a couple times they even draw her with like little ears on. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to think, like, what is more sexy than a black, leotard, really? I mean, it leaves a lot up to your imagination, you know? I mean, you can have beautiful costumes. I mean, you look at some gorgeous, Vampirella, let's take her, Lady Death, you know what I mean? These beautiful, sexualized, just knockouts, really like these giant statuesque, like Lady Death is like a Valkyrie, you know what I mean? Exactly. And she's there and she's, in control and she's a queen, and then, like Vampirella, you get characters like that, my character, she, but, Wonder Woman, with more revealing costumes, but man, what is sexier than that black?
Yeah. Do you think that Mills, she had ties to like the fashion world, right? From what I understand, she had ties with it. Now, how much of that do you think plays into like that costume?
Oh, I think so, because I think, again, it's the cool thing too is it's designed by a woman. And a woman, women dress for women. Any woman will tell you that. They don't dress for men, they dress for women, other women, because, that's who's looking at you. A lot of guys like, oh my God, did you see, did you see the new boots that, J-Lo's wearing? Really hear a lot of guys saying that,
Don't talk about that.
But women like, oh my God, and so, especially at that time. And here was Tarpe Mills, and she was a fashionista herself. She was a beautiful woman, 5'2", stick of dynamite, no nonsense, chain smoking, badass, really, for the most part. Very independent, very progressive, fearless, if you will. And we were, what happened though was once the war ended, the men started coming home. June was now feeling even more progressive, even more fearless. So she wants to take this to the next level. But that's not the direction the country was going in. Even though you see, believe it or not, you've seen controversy. What?
I was going to say that this sort of plays into the next controversy she was in, because at one point she draws a character with a bikini, and the bikini had just been released in France, and it caused a whole bunch of controversy in France when it first walked out the catwalk with a woman wearing that, because outside of the Pacific, nobody had ever seen the bikini before. And if you remember the old Beach Boys song, they call it the French Bikini.
Yes, yeah, because because you had a lot of this, like even like in Hawaii, that you had them a bit, but they were very, I don't even know in pre-war if they had them in Hawaii, but these Polynesian, these soldiers went to war. They're fighting in the Pacific. They're seeing these islanders. You've got war correspondents there with cameras filming them, and then you see in Paris, like, oh my God, look at that.
And literally, after
the men want to see that because
it was like 6 months later, or just a few months later. Tarpe Mills is drawing a character wearing a bikini, and it causes basically a shitstorm. And what ends up happening is that brings the bikini into the public zeitgeist, I guess. And 3 years later, Miss America, the Miss America contest is having bikinis in their swimsuit competition.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that she has Era, her character's name, it was Era, this Brazilian freedom fighter, beautiful long black hair. And then she shows her that, and dozens of newspapers canceled the strip, not because the fans wanted it. You get some of these guys, you know what I mean, smoking cigars. What is the? Oh my God, what? But the people wanted that because everyone grew up. It was almost like the war forced people to grow up, just like World War I did. That led to the Roaring '20s.
Yes.
And you even see that though, even fashion, even though the Truman era with the bomb and everything in the late 1940s into Eisenhower coming in '52, is that you see, the world coming together. Okay, we got the Soviet, the Soviet threat. We want safety. We want everything. We want to be safe. We want 2.4 kids. Nuclear families, move out to the suburbs. This is what will make America prevail. But there was still that old guard. And again, and June Tarpe Mills you could make the argument that she's one of the first victims of the so-called cancel culture.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think it might have broke her heart that she wasn't allowed to tell the story she wanted to. Now, Trina Robbins has the historian. We had Trina Robbins on our own show, the Pop XP, this week. And Trina just feels that, it's a lot of work. She had some health issues, and it was tough, doing a big Sunday strip, and then doing, working with the comics that Timely Comics did the comic books and all. It was a lot of pressure on her. Plus, then the newspaper's not allowing her to do what she wanted to do.
Yes.
And I think it just broke her heart, and then she just stopped, went back into advertising, revisited Miss Fury again in the late 70s, and it really is a sad ending to this, one of the most important comic creators in the history of the industry, of the medium, that created a character that launched hundreds of imitators. One of them, went on to become $1 billion industry in her own right.
Yeah.
And we want with Miss Fury, the Joy Division, out, and I'll get into the story. Okay. Our story fits directly into the continuity. We brought back, all the original characters, not all of them, because she created so many great, but a lot of the core original characters. And it's really an homage and a love letter to June Tarpe Mills and this amazing character that she created and this universe that she created. And I actually got to meet with Bill Finn, who is one of her surviving nephews. And we become fast friends, great friends, and Bill loved it. I told him the story. I think he might have cried. I sent him the script, and that we want to honor her. We want to do right by her. And again, we've got an amazing Team Fury, we call it. And it's myself, our illustrator, Maria Laura Sanapo. We have our colorist, Cece Dela Cruz, our designer and letterer, Mindy Lopkin, and variant covers by Asha Kishna, did a variant cover too. And it's everyone loves this story. And the funny thing that came out of it is that someone said, because there was some garbage going on about cancel culture and all. And somebody on Twitter said, oh, well, damn, look at Tucci. He's got an entire female creative team he's working with. I didn't even know that. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even realize that, wow, that's right. It's all these amazing, talented women and me. I'm the weakest link in the chain. But that wasn't purposeful to have an all creative female team on this book. It was just like, I love Maria Laura Sanapo's art. My wife Deborah and I became.
It looks amazing. The artwork you posted just looks amazing. And again,
and you look at it, she was born to tell this story. She really was.
Right on that one.
Yep, and she gets it, and she adores it, and we've been corresponding with Trina Williams, and Trina's like, I don't know if that panel, you want to use that panel. Yeah. And Maria's like, you're right. Because, like maybe like today's comics, maybe you can have a little bit of angles that today might seem a bit misogynistic. Obviously the Brokeback poses. Now Maria doesn't do that, but some of the panels, Trina's like, I don't think Tarpe Mills would do a panel like that. Yeah. And then Maria's like, you're right. And redoing the panel's even better. When when you're talking to someone like Trina Robbins,
to me was how much this does look like it's inspired by Tarpe Mills artwork.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the lines I'm using lines that were actually lines that her characters used. And again, when you have someone critiquing like a Trina Robbins critiquing your book while you're making it or before you, and giving you time to correct that, it's what a gift. The story and the subject matter is really important too, because for a lot of people know the word know Joy Division from the band Joy Division from the early '80s. That became New Order and all. But the thing is that the Joy Divisions were, when the Nazis started running roughshod all across Europe, what they would do is then they would take the Jews and they would herd them into ghettos. Literally that. Those they didn't haul off to the camps. Mostly the men in the beginning were hauled off to the concentration camps. They called them work camps at the time, and they really became death camps. As the Nazi war production had picked up.
Was their motto, wasn't it? Work will make you free.
Work will set you free. Yeah, monsters, all. Yeah. But what they did is as they really ramped up war production. Because now that the United States is in the war, we're bombing their cities, we're bombing their factories, things like that. We're opening up second fronts. In Africa. Moving into Europe for the invasion of Normandy. The Germans need more manual labor. So now they start going into the camps, into the ghettos, and they start pulling the women out. So what they do, some of them as young as 11 years old. So now the women they cart the women into the trains, and they start bringing them to the camp. And there are two entrances to the camps. One camp is the one that says work will set you free. That's very dingy, dark, it's literally, they get the pajamas, and these people, including the women, are literally worked to death. Yeah. So there's a person there, an SS, usually a woman, a female SS officer standing there. And as the women come in, they look at them. And if you look one way, you're sent to the work camp. Yep. If you look another way, some of them they deem more beautiful, more attractive, they were sent to that way, to that entrance on the right, on the left. And that entrance was Camp Joy. Yeah. And what that did was that they would take these women who were, these beautiful women, again, some of them young as 11 years old, coif them, give them makeup, feed them well, give them, lessons on etiquette, lessons on other things, womanly things or whatever, and literally turn them into sex slaves for the German army. And, you could call them prostitutes, but these women never got paid. Yeah. And if these women showed any sort of independence, defiance, if a German soldier fell in love with them, what they did to these women who were repeatedly raped for the most part, they would take them out and into the center of the camp, and they would sodomize them to death with batons and things like that, and kill these women. So in certain ways, they suffered a fate worse than death. Yep. Because they had to be raped, sometimes multiple times a day, and
this, by the way, for anybody who's never heard this story before, this was ordered by like the senior levels of the Nazis. I believe it was Himmler, or actually orchestrated this joint.
Yes.
And he's like the number 3 person behind Hitler. And
there's a great book called, and there's an amazing book that is required reading in Israel, and it's called House of Dolls. And it's a story written by a concentration camp survivor, and it tells the story of the Joy Division. And our story is that Marla Drake, after battling the Nazis in New York City, she's recruited to go into Germany, or France, really. It's southern France. I think it's Germany, to capture the leader of the Joy Division. And because this man, the war is coming, it's 1944. It's August 1944 when she's sent. The things are turning in the Allies' favor. The world must know what these monsters are. It's not enough to kill him, but she has to bring him to justice. So, you know, and the character actually who is in charge of the Joy Division is Colonel Prussia, Colonel Wolfram Prussia, who was a sadistic character in Marla Drake's, I'm sorry, in June Tarpe Mills' original story. And Colonel Prussia is, the last you see of Colonel Prussia is in 1943 when he kidnaps the Baroness, Marla Drake's, I guess you could say main antagonist, kidnaps her and takes her to Germany. And you don't see them forever. You don't see them again. You see Baroness returns back in 1949, I think, but you never see Colonel Prussia. So we have Colonel Prussia's charge of the Joy Division, and now the Baroness is also the forced madam of the Joy Division. Gotcha. So here is the story of Marla going behind enemy lines and she confronts her. Can she trust her? You know, she does battle with it, and it's a very important story, but it is also a golden age adventure as well. But we want to take it very seriously, but we also want to capture the spirit of June Tarpe Mills' story. And it's, again, I think it's one of the best things I've ever written, and I'm so proud of it. And I'm so proud of the team. I'm so proud of Tarpe Mills's, I'm so proud of Maria Laura's artwork. And we have a lot of fun with it. I mean, we've got a giant airship, an aircraft carrier airship that the United States was supposed to build. It's the USS Theodore Roosevelt. We've got P-47 Thunderbolts. We have P-47 Thunderbolts fighting the X-5 skyrocket, which is famous, the Grumman skyrocket, which is famously used in the Black Hawk comics. Yeah. We've got Nazis and Paris and a big fight on the rooftops of Paris and snipers and Whiffy, who is Whiffy Caudron, who I think it's Caudron. What am I blanking on him? Verone. Whiffy Verone, who is one of the first trans characters in comics, if not the first trans character in comics history. But he is also one of the leaders of the French Resistance. So he's in the story. So it's, we've got Ernest Hemingway in it. We've got a lot of cool stuff. And again, I'm just so proud of it, and I love the idea. So what's going to happen is that Marla Drake is then going, and I'll give a little bit away, I don't care. She's going to liberate the women of the Joy Division and turn them into the Black Furies. Now they go after the Nazis. And it's almost like a female and glorious bastards of all these women wearing these Black Panther suits that Marla gets from the Paris Museum where she meets Whiffy. It's fun stuff. It's going to be a cool story.
When I was looking at it, you mentioned Glorious Bastards. I sort of thought like where in the strip, there's a character who has the swastika branded on her forehead. And I thought that was sort of borrowed from and put into Inglorious Bastards.
Absolutely, and that's a story. This is 1942 or 43, I think. And you can show just how fearless Tarpe Mills was, is that she has the Baroness, who is, I guess you could best describe her as this reluctant Nazi spy. Yeah. She's just someone who's just trying to get what's best for her. She's not a good character by any stretch of the imagination. She's not a good guy, but she's working, she's German. She's not really a Baroness that you'll learn in the Joy Division. And she's captured by these thugs, and they literally brand her forehead with a hot poker with an iron swastika. And it's sick. I mean, and so everyone will know who she is, and she's got to wear these bangs and
it's way ahead of its time in that regard. I mean, that's another one of those things where it's cutting edge on violence that it'd be 20 years before you would see another thing like that I can think of in like any type of media thing.
Crazy, right? Crazy. Yeah. So
absolutely. So tell everybody how to find your the Miss Fury books. Where can we find them at?
Yeah, Miss Fury right now, if you go to Indiegogo and type in Miss Fury, the Joy Division, it's on there now. We're in demand. The book is we're over $93,000 we've made. Thank you all thank you all so much, especially being a comic character that so few people know who that is. There's lots of great levels. You've got sketch editions. There's really, I mean, it's a very high end you know, premium edition that you can get in softcover and hardcover. It's over 100 pages of story and art. We're doing a lot of really cool things too. Is like all the fashion that is worn in Miss Fury was created by my friend Michael Soloff's father when he was 16, 17 years old. And here's another very, very, you know, bittersweet story is that my friend Michael Soloff's father, growing up in Pittsburgh, his dream was to be a fashion designer.
Okay.
But as a kid whose father owns a furniture store in Pittsburgh, PA during the Depression and into World War II, that's not what a kid did. So he graduates high school in 1946, I think, or 47, ends up joining the Air Force, does his Air Force time, and then goes to work in the dad's, you know, furniture salesman for the rest of his life. Gets married, raises 2 kids, and then he passed away, I think 7, 8 years ago. It might be low, it might be a decade ago, I'm not sure. And he was suffering from diabetes. He calls his son in to come visit him and says, you know what, why don't you go in and take what you want? So Mike goes into the closet, into the, you know, the father's big closet, and finds this massive portfolio in the back. Now, Michael was probably 50 in his 40s at the time, never heard the story, anything. Opens it up, and there are probably 200 amazing fashion designs. I mean, creme de la creme fashion designs that his father had made when he was 16 and 17 years old. And like talking like high-end talent. And Mike asked his father, said, yeah, that was my dream. I wanted to be a fashion designer. And you know, but that's not what a kid in Pittsburgh did. You joined the service, you got married, you had kids, and you supported your family.
Yeah.
So Mike showed me the fashion, and I was blown away by it. And I'm hoping he puts together a book on it because the art is glorious. But the thing is that all the fashions, and his dream was always that he wanted to see a starlet wear one of his designs. Mm-hmm. And well, thankfully now in Miss Fury Joy Division, you will see his, Charles M. Soloff's original designs.
Mm-hmm. So, I can't wait to see this book. This book just
kind of another cool thing.
So I guess I should wrap it up.
It's going to be fun.
So check out Indiegogo. Look it up. It's Miss Fury. And it's an incredible book. I strongly recommend it. And that's all I can say. Check it out.
So, what do you think? How bad was I? I don't think it was awful for a first-time effort, but there's definitely room for improvement. Maybe I'll try to do some more videos like this and see how it goes. Thanks again to Billy for putting up with me. Please support Miss Fury Joy Division on Indiegogo. It looks like a great graphic novel worthy of your time and money, and most of all, it's worthy of a place in your comic book collection. I can't wait to see it. And with all this new insight from Billy, I plan on making a more traditional documentary on her, but you know my track record. Who knows when I'll get that done. I've been telling everyone in my last couple of videos that my computer is dying. I checked the computer logs and it turned out I bought it in 2008. Right now it's constantly crashing on me. It's really slowed me down over the last month or so. I do have a computer fund, and if you would like to help out, every nickel counts, and you can support me on Patreon, or better yet, you can make a one-time donation on PayPal. The links are in the description box down below. And as of this moment, as I made this video, I'm about halfway there. Thanks to you guys, I've raised about $600, which is about half of what I need to purchase a computer that can produce higher quality videos. Special kudos goes out to Tim. He sent me a couple of really cool comic books and made a contribution to the computer fund. Thank you, Tim. And thanks to you, I'm going to start collecting Tomb of Dracula now. Thanks everyone for watching. Go out and support Miss Fury Joy Division on Indiegogo. Do it right now. And that's all from me. Bye.